Hello everyone, get ready with me to go back to school shopping today. That is the activity of the day. I'm gonna take both girls and get all the school supplies, but first we're going to get our makeup on, and I'm wearing an actual headband today. This is not just a makeup headband. I got this from Walmart. It is really cute. It's just a little knotted black headband, works for so many things. But I'm gonna tell you, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for this video today. I was throwing around some different ideas. I was having trouble settling on something, and then I opened a PR package for Vitamin Enriched Skin Tint by Bobbi Brown, and I don't even normally get anything from Bobbi Brown, but I got this, and I am a big fan of the Vitamin Enriched face base, my loves. Like this, the super size, just used it up. I refuse to put this in my empties until it's totally gone, and as of today, I do not think I can get a bit more out of it. I've gone over every corner, every surface of that, and so when I see now that they are basing a whole skin tint off of that, I'm all about it. There's also a Vitamin Enriched pressed powder that can be worn all over the face. Once I opened that up, I thought I've got to give that a test, and the other things they're talking about on this are the face base and the eye cream. I wasn't huge on the eye cream. I was expecting it to be really, really rich like this stuff. This was years ago when that was new. It didn't really wow me like face base does. So anyways, I'm going to use this. This has SPF 15. I'm going to use a bunch of other new products as well today. I have the shade Light 2. It has Pro Vitamin D and Cactus Flower. What else did they say about it? 12-hour moisture and color true wear in 18 skin true shades. The little thing says more beauty, less makeup. Less makeup has never really been my mentality, but we'll go with it for this. So we got a little squeeze tube here. It is a rather large bottle. How much is in here? 1.7 fluid ounces. So let's squeeze out a little pearl-sized amount. We'll go with the standard amount I would normally use for most things. It seems, I would say, kind of like a standard foundation consistency, maybe a little more liquidy, and I'm just dotting it all around my face. Then I'm going to take my e.l.f. Duo brush, and we're just going to dab this in. This is a complete first time using it type of situation. I was just excited. There was no way I wasn't going to use this today, so it had to be part of the video, okay? Ew, the smell. There's a little bit of like a freshness with it. I don't know that it smells exactly like Vitamin Enriched face base, but it's along those lines a little bit. Skin is looking really radiant, and I would call it a light coverage. I do feel like I'm getting some overall evening out, but like my skin was already kind of juicy before this, and now it's looking and feeling really hydrated. Immediately thinking now what I would compare this to. As you can see, if you look up close at my skin, you're seeing all the freckles through it. So, I really am getting that light coverage feel. But again, an overall evening of the complexion and just a dewy, hydrated look and feel. I feel like it's a little less coverage on the skin than the Yummy Skin from Enriched that we were playing with recently, but similar in the moisture level. This does have that SPF 15. Enriched doesn't have any SPF. From the drugstore, it's giving me a little bit the feel like the finished complexion, that glowiness of the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator, the Bare Focus. Only this might be a little less coverage than this product, actually. Hello. How are you? What I've realized in my life recently is that, I can really enjoy a light coverage product. I can enjoy something that's going to overall even out my skin, give me some radiance, give me that added hydration, but, it doesn't have to be full coverage for me to enjoy it. I like this. I'm going to need to use it more. I'm going to need to see how it wears. Part of me kind of feels like anything that has that Vitamin Enriched name on it needs to be rich. You know what I mean? The number one quality that comes to mind when I think Vitamin Enriched face base is there's a rich thickness to that moisture. And I was almost thinking maybe when I squeezed this out at first, it would be almost balmy, like a little bit different consistency, but it's just a thin, liquidy tinted moisturizer. But do it light coverage, do whatever you want. I think they're just jumping on that Vitamin Enriched name in their brand that is so, I think, loved and respected. And I know there's probably some good vitamins in it, but as far as just the look and the experience of putting it on, it could have been labeled with any little brand subline, But my skin is a little less super tacky as it sits here. It still feels very hydrated, but I do think it looks good. Then we got another new thing here from Makeup Forever. They have released a new concealer. It's HD Skin Smooth and Blur Undetectable Concealer, which I have in the shade 1.3N. The PR thing for this says, wake up your under eyes, 24-hour wear, seamless buildable coverage, natural real skin finish, blurs texture and color corrects. So let's see if this is God's gift to the under eyes. Okay, so we're gonna do some little dots here. It feels really thin. I can just tell as it dots off of the applicator. And I'm gonna also use it in my other concealer zones, okay? And we're gonna spread it out, see what kind of coverage it has. I'm all about making a concealer take up more space than just the little dots. And it seems like this is pretty light too. Like maybe they were preparing for people to do bigger swipes, because I feel like these dots aren't necessarily going as far as I thought they would. You know, sometimes you put a little dot on, like if you use one of those really full coverage concealers and it's like whoosh, it just spreads in a more thick way. Just dabbing over the under eye area. I'm not wowed by this immediately. Like, is it just me or does it look a little thick on the texture there? I feel like my under eye looks kind of more makeup-y, not real covered. What's going on there? It's just not blended enough yet? I need to work it in there more. I feel like it's just kind of clinging to texture. I mean, I don't think I was that dry there. The area actually, this is really odd. It feels super moisturized up in here. It's like the concealer is clinging to anything it can find. This may not be the answer, but I just want to see what a little more does, because I felt I was very minimal with what I put on. And it wasn't like, oh my gosh, a little goes a long way. It actually didn't seem like a little went a long way. But yet it came away giving me the look like I'd put on a lot of makeup. I don't know. I'm just seeing what a little more would do. I'm trying my finger just to kind of understand how this works into the skin if a brush wasn't the best method. Granted, this is my first time using this. This is not a full review. We're just kind of testing some things here. You're in the test kitchen with me. But this is not an immediate love. I'm looking real close, and from a distance, you might not be able to sense any of the things I'm crocking about here, but it really looks makeup-y and clingy. I don't know what that's about. It seems so light, and I don't feel like it worked wonders for the under eye. Just finished result, even looking at myself from a distance, I'm not like, oh wow. Let's get some coffee. Okay, I am going to want to set my under eye in my T-zone today, and this is the Vitamin Enriched Pressed Powder. I don't think that's what I'll be using for that step. This seems like more of an overall skin tone color. Feels really smooth, but it does feel like lightweight. I'm excited to try that. Ooh, and there's a film to peel. Peel the film. We'll get to you. For now, I think I will just take, I've got it here handy, my Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent, and we'll set our under eye and T-zone. It's just odd. I've used cheaper concealers. I've used heavier concealers that didn't really exaggerate the under eye texture as much as that with such a minimal amount. And then I put on more, and I just kind of wanted to see if it would cover more, but yeah, we're just gonna have to go with it today. And I'm going to do this all around T-zone too. The skin really feels pretty juicy, like slightly less juicy than when this Bobbi Brown skin tint was first applied, but still juicy. I know Bobbi Brown, you know, she's moved on with her own line with Jones Road, but I wonder how much she kind of keeps tabs on what's coming out on the brand that actually has her name on it. Like, oh, they did that? Or, you know, what's her reaction to this stuff? Dab that around, and we're gonna dust. Honestly, the under eye looks a bit smoother with that, but I still, if I look really close, it's not looking pretty on the innermost corner. And then we're gonna try this powder all over the skin, just as kind of an all over setting thing. So I'm gonna grab my BK Beauty 107, put this over part of the face and see what you can see. It's, ooh, really setting nicely. Putting it over half. So maybe you can see what's going on. Vitamin Enriched Pressed Powder controls oil, balances skin with moisture over time, and blurs imperfections. I can see that. I can see that it gave a little coverage boost all over the skin, but not like powder foundation, okay? It's not so soft that a lot of it is gonna like get off on your brush and you're gonna be tapping off excess and you're gonna be layering on a thick layer of powder coverage. It's not like powder foundation, but it is definitely adding a little something, and it's helping set that really juicy product. I like that. It's really staying in its lane as far as pressed powder goes, you know what I mean? And the shade is just a nice all over shade for me. All over the skin, they make a decent little team. A lot of times we don't see a tinted moisturizer come out and then a powder come out alongside it. You know, it seems like brands are either all about the dewy and the glowy, but they gave us something practical to come in and kind of like improve staying power, maybe even things out a bit more. I like that choice to do it that way. Although, how do either of these products remind me of Vitamin Enriched face base? They just don't. Then I think I talked about a couple of these Wet n Wild Alice in Wonderland things in a previous video. Like, I was just explaining what was on my face, but I didn't apply them for you, so I thought I would use those today. This is the T Anyone bronzer palette. We got the Mad Hatter on the front of that. And then what we basically have here are 2 matte bronzers and 2 shimmery, kind of goldeny, I mean, they're pretty light actually, strips of powder in the middle. So with a product like this, you can kind of bounce your brush around depending on how much you want of whatever. You can really work it like kind of an artist's palette, you know? You can dip into a little bit more of the sides if you're thinking, I want more color, I want more actual contour. And then, you know, you could bounce lightly into the shimmer if you want a little bit of glow added. But it is truly able to do the bronzer work, as you can see around my forehead. It's pigmented. You can see I give myself a little gentle contour there. It's nice. Like, I really kind of like this. If I hadn't been sent this in PR, I'm not sure that I would have like sought it out for myself. I like Alice in Wonderland and all, but it's not really worth it to me to have a bunch of this limited edition stuff. If I got anything, I probably would have sought out these cute face products, but it really didn't seem like a must to me. I've got a lot of decent bronzers. Wet n Wild themselves, you know, if you want something you can repurchase over and over again. Color Icon powder bronzer, What Shady Beaches, that's a great product. But this works. This isn't purely like a little gimmicky type of thing. It's an actual bronzer that does a good job. And the blush is really cute here too. It's the Talk to Flowers blush palette. They call these palettes because you're getting strips of product here. And this I probably like even better than the bronzer. I really like the tone you end up with. You've got kind of like shimmery mauve, deep berry, dusty rose over here, and then this strip of shimmer, which really, you know, if you own a Real Techniques setting brush, that's small enough for you to get in that strip and use it like highlighter too, or just blend it in with everything else. I really like the look of both of these together, and I'm going to add that on the cheeks here. It's really pretty. Like, I love that effect. And then, you know, you could do a little dab over that highlight and just immediately give that blush a bit of a glow. But love those 2 shades mixed. It's truly nicely pigmented. Like, no complaints on that. And then another thing you can do with these kinds of palettes, especially like this one, you can go in those strips and wear it like eyeshadow. Wear it like an actual eyeshadow palette. You can definitely do your crease and you can put a little shimmer on your lids. So products like this that come in strips, they're interesting. I'll do a little splash of the other side of the palette. It's all coming together, gang. Then another thing that came new in PR, Laura Mercier is coming out with the liquid highlighters here, and it's looking very Charlotte Tilbury-ish. And I have the shade Champagne Pink. Oh, yep, it's that same packaging design. I don't always love this, but okay, we got an on and off. We'll turn it to on. We'll give her a squeeze. Whoa, whoa. It's like a little volcano. Is it ready to erupt? Boom. Okay, there's a little product coming out, and we'll just give a couple dabs of this and see what she's all about. We'll start slow. I'm gonna grab my e.l.f. putty brush for this. Just me, or is that still looking like 2 spots? Blend. Okay, it's pretty. Could you get this look elsewhere? It's not overly sticky. It's not totally changing like the whole feel of my skin. I'm gonna get a little bit like off on my finger and do some mini dots right up here and a little mini right here. It's giving a really pronounced shine. Like looking up close at my skin, I'm seeing not that kind of invisible highlighter quality that I sometimes talk about where, wow, the skin is glowing, but I'm not really seeing where it's coming from. Like I look up at my cheek, and especially from just dotting it right off the applicator, I'm not saying I was trying to be subtle or anything, but it looks pretty metallic right there up on the cheek. A little softer toward the forehead where I dotted it on my finger first. It's pretty, but it's nothing like the Wet n Wild one with the little wand applicator. It's nothing that couldn't do. To be honest with you, I could have gotten a beautifully highlighted look just by going with that strip right there. Before I wrap up the complexion, I want to show you guys this. I did get my one size powder, Turn Up the Base powder foundation, and they came out with a stage white color that I ordered off the One Size website. Truly white, okay? And I thought I would apply a little bit of that. Like, this isn't the type of thing that you're gonna put on like powder foundation, but it's just, that's the formula it's made in. I'm gonna take my fresh Real Techniques setting brush here, the one that I sometimes use to sweep away fallout. I'm just gonna get a little bit of this and try adding just even more brightness to the under eye and see if you can tell the difference right in this zone. Can you see? Maybe I need a little more. Whoa. See, I've been playing with this in different ways at different points in the makeup routine. I've tried it earlier on after concealer is applied. I've tried it at the tail end of makeup. I've tried it just before I do my setting spray, and I think this is kind of when it makes most sense. It's not something that I'm going to bake with or use a lot of, but it's something I'm just going to use a small amount of just to kind of amp up the brightness there, and I think I can see the effect. See how things look a little more lively there? Just a little bit. It's fun. I like experimenting with little stuff like that. Then I am going to pull out some Urban Decay All-Nighter for today. This is my summer solstice packaging again that I will have forever because I only use like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 mists of this stuff at a time. Does smell good. There we have it, friends. I mean, can I feel good about this complexion? Absolutely. But we're just looking critically at some things here, and I would say the thing I liked least complexion-wise was that concealer. I did not think it blurred texture whatsoever. It was so thin. I think a thicker concealer, like a hydrating camo concealer from e.l.f., would have done more of a number on the texture than that stuff did. Didn't cover a lot. Did not seem to be super loaded with pigment. I don't quite get that stuff. The vitamin enriched products from Bobbi Brown, I could definitely use them and enjoy them, but if you're like looking at the price tag of this and you're like, I don't want to spend that, there's definitely other options from the drugstore. Like I said, Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator is beautiful and probably has a little more coverage than this and a similar feel and a similar radiance. This did make my skin feel nice and juicy, so like a dry skin person I think could get on board with that if you like that light coverage. I liked how these two things do come together because it wasn't like, okay, and we're gonna release a super matte powder foundation. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense with this, but something to set it, something to maybe enhance coverage slightly and mattify and take down a little bit of the juicy feel so you feel in a practical sense it will wear well all day. They're kind of a nice team, honestly. We are gonna move on to brows, and I actually do have something new I've been playing with. It's from Sydney Grace. During this time when they've had their sale, they have brow palettes now, and I have the medium brown shade. It's called Mad For You Brows by Sydney Grace, and they've taken their super pigmented shadows and they've just made a brow palette out of it. And I'm kind of into the medium brown and the chocolate shades, but this also has a medium ash brown, a golden caramel, and a copper, so several different tones that I could work in. What do we think about strictly powder brows? For me, I kind of knowing that even if it's a pigmented shadow, it might not last super well in there without a little texture to hold on to. So I actually have one of these Milani brow shaping pencils, clear wax. If Milani doesn't still make this, I'm pretty sure ABH always has a wax pencil in their line, and probably some other brands too. But I like prepping my brow with that, and I feel like then these shadows have something more to cling to and can last all day. So just a little tip, if you're thinking about trying that, you might also want to have some form of brow wax on hand. I'm gonna go to the medium brown first, right here on this end. It is kind of cool, and it makes sense for me to use some of that like in the inner part of my brows. Like it just gives a little less intensity. That's how you manage it with this. These are pigmented, so if you want less intensity, you gotta pick one of the lighter shades. And then I go into chocolate, and I could probably use medium ash brown beside it too, but I just Been using the chocolate right in through the rest of the brow. And I get a really nice even fill in there. Like, look at that. And it was easy. And I do have the little bit of wax there, which is helping it cling. You can brush through. It's nice. Medium brown again. I'm gonna hit it right in here. Powders, I do feel, are one of the easiest ways to fill in your brows. If you've never played with brow fill-in whatsoever, like I remember the first way I ever filled in my brows, I had a matte brown, happened to be the right kind of shade for me, cool brown L'Oreal eyeshadow single. And I mean, I hit pan on that thing. This was back when I was kind of coming out of a super skinny brow and into more of a normal brow. I would use that to fill in, and I always felt like I was in control of it. And it was kind of before, I'm moving on to chocolate now, before the ABH Brow Wiz craze was really taking over, and then every brand had their wardrobe of brow products to use. It felt easy to me, is my point. It felt like I could control it. It wasn't intimidating for me. So I'm not saying you have to buy the Sydney Grace palette if you want to experiment with powder brow fill-in, but other brands have little kits. I don't know if e.l.f. still makes one, but Milani I know had one as well. But these are nice, very nice powders. I'm going to add in a little bit of this medium ash brown just to see. And you could of course use these as eyeshadows too if you wanted, but their point is to be brows. And then over top of that, I will do just a little gel. You can use any gel you want, NYX Control Freak, whatever. If you grabbed a super duper wet, lots of moisture to it gel, it might affect some of your powder fill-in, but this doesn't. Like, it's not too goopy on there. And by affect it, I mean maybe like water it down. I think they're looking pretty good. And then for my eye look, I thought I might just show one of these new Sydney Grace palettes in action. They've got several new ones. I showed you one day I was wearing a look with Raspberry Kiss. That was beautiful. Heaven on Earth is a gorgeous palette. It's got a lot of blues and greens, but it's fun. It's fun to use and just some pretty earthy vibes. And look at that beautiful illustration on the outside. And then Love's Journey might be my overall favorite. I think this is a really smart palette when you really get to looking at it. I mean, it's very basic neutrals, right? Very everyday friendly, but look horizontally. I feel like they gave us 3 different color schemes to work in. One that goes pretty warm, one that's straight neutral, and one that's cooler. And I thought I might go with that cooler one today because I have really extensively used the top 2 rows. And sometimes when I get in a mode of using those, I may bounce between them, but I'm not coming down here so much when I'm using those. So let's on purpose use that bottom row. I'm gonna try a little bit of Dreamboat first, this cool soft gray. Oh wait, I didn't prime. I didn't prime. What am I doing? Has this ever happened? Milani eyeshadow primer. Just getting too caught up in the Sydney Grace of it all. Forcing me to look at those inner corners again. As I was saying, we're going back to Dreamboat. So they made a really classic palette here. But again, I like how there's truly 3 distinct tones, and you don't have to be some kind of expert makeup color pairer to figure that out. You can just look sideways and tell what was happening there, what the intent was. So Dreamboat is light. I'm actually kind of surprised it's doing as much as it is. I just wanted to kind of try it out there in the crease. It's giving me a little cool shadiness, but it'll be good for layering on a deeper shade on top. Well, I got quite a bit on there now. And even the warmest row, honestly, it's not off the charts warm. We've just got a couple deeper browns that dip their toe into that warmer color scheme. Okay, that's pretty. That's just one shade lightly in there. Then I'm gonna go to Us right here, this shade, deeper gray, and that's really gonna start adding some intensity to our crease. You don't see a lot of people doing really grayish eye looks a lot, do you? So you can see where we've gone with that. Nice, cool crease. What I think would be pretty, now that we've worked with both of these colors down here, both of our cool mattes, I think it would be pretty to take a little bit of Everlasting Love, which is right here in the top row, and while I've got that crease brush in hand, just let that come up here and give a little bit of like back into the skin sense. See what I'm doing? I'm coming right up here on the edge. And I feel like it's making it make a little more sense, making those grays seem a little more at home on the eye. Nice setup. Really want to see about Fools in Love down here in the corner. Is it a pure black or is it a near black? I think it's going to be plenty intense, whatever it is. There's not a lot of room to walk right over there. Right down here, a little up on the flat brush. There's not a lot of excess to be tapped off. These shadows don't have a lot of riffraff going on. It seems fully black to me. And we're getting that whole outermost corner, reaching up for that crease. Oh, these are so easy to work with. Really nice. I will come in there with a smaller brush, but wow. Cat behind me trying to test the setting sprays or something. I would love to know in the comments section, what kind of content makes you go to YouTube to watch? Like, have you totally been sucked in by TikTok, or is there certain stuff where you're like, I will head over to YouTube if I want to watch you get ready with me? Or, you know, like what stuff makes you come here for a video? I got a smidge of that same shade on my smaller brush here, and I'm going to be doing a little shaping. Just straight into the deepest part of the crease and a little bit swirling around. Because I want to be putting out what you want to see. And I don't know if that's, do you come to YouTube thinking that's where I'll get a more in-depth review? Is that what you're wanting? Are you wanting get ready with me that's a little bit longer and more relaxed than what you might get on TikTok? Like, what can I offer here that is of value to you? Because sometimes, and there's always certain times a year where I notice this, like late summer, people are busy. And I've never been a big numbers person with my channel, but you know, you'll see the views just not be where they typically are, and it kind of makes you think like, am I doing something wrong here? Am I way off base with what I'm putting out? Am I just not doing what viewers want to see? But you know, I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and ultimately I try to stick with what brings me like a passionate, joyful feeling inside. And when people have time, they'll watch. The thing that really discourages me, I think, is when I hear from people who say, I haven't been seeing you in my subscription feed, you know, like you don't come up anymore. And that makes me sad, because that's how I feel like, you know, YouTube can kind of screw me and I could lose a lot of people if you're just not seeing my uploads. So I would say interact with me on here, you know, give a thumbs up, give a comment, tell the algorithm that you want this, and turn on your notifications. That might be good too. All right, so see what we did with that beautiful black shade. Like, how many other times could I use a black, have a discussion about something totally unrelated, and be able to pull off the look without hardly focusing on it at all? Thank you, Sydney Grace. And do I have fallout? No, I don't. Now what do we want to do with that inner lid? We have a couple of shades in this row. Only You. Ooh, look at that gunmetal. Really pretty. And then Captivating is more of a silver vibe. And then, of course, if you wanted to, you got Dinner Date up here. That has a hint of olive in it, just a hint. We've got more of like a dirty bronze, champagne, like all kinds of things. Or you could stay playing with mattes if you wanted to. But you know what? That Captivating shade, the one on the end here, as I just swatched it on my hand, it's not a pure silver. It's actually kind of got some taupe in it too. I'm going to go to Only You. Thought that gunmetal was really nice. And we're just gonna do some swipes over the lid. It's so pretty because it's deep, but it's catching the light in such a pretty way. And then it's coming into those pretty dark shadows. I'm getting it all over my lid and just a little bit beyond my crease, just to really cover that surface area well. And I'm starting here because this is still a dark color, right? So I'm not just gonna boom, throw it into my inner corner. I'm gonna start here and like, look how I'm baby stepping it inward. So that way, once my brush comes in here, it's got less product on it. Where you first put your brush, the most product goes. We always say that. Oh, that's lovely. I'm really enjoying that. Kind of smoky. But that's what your cool bottom row is going to do for you. And then, like I said, pick one of these other shades that can kind of come up on the outer edge of it all. That's nice. What do I want to do with the lower lash line? I'm going to take a little bit of Hard Candy Pony, this shadow stick, and this can look kind of murky and kind of mid-tone and not move at all. And I'm going to apply that to my lower lash line. How easy. And then if you want to, you could take a little bit more of one of the deep shades. Like I'm gonna take, a little bit of Us, a little bit of Fools in Love. Just hit the outermost part so it can kind of blend with what was going on there. Is this your transition into fall palette? Because that's kind of the way it's feeling for me. And this is the light shade option, by the way. Deeper option will take some of those matte neutral basics and turn them a little bit darker for a deeper skin tone to easily work with. I'm gonna pull in a little bit of liner because I wanna do a lash today. I brought up some lashes from Kiss. I believe the style is called Pompadour. So I'm gonna just put down a nice liquid line from Sephora, colorful Winkit felt tip liner in the shade Little Black Dress. Just hugging that lash line. I'm going to use my Huda new One Coat Wow, and I'm going to stick to the one coat because what I found was if you layer on extra, funky ends will develop. Like the way it wears throughout a day, you'll kind of just see it, like that amazing length that you built up, kind of not knowing where to go. It just doesn't look like one fluid, beautiful lash anymore. But with one coat, it can be fine. So do what they say, one coat. And plus I'm gonna be adding a lash today anyway, so I do like this stuff. I do think it can be effective. See, here's my one coat going on. I'm looking down into my mirror so it exposes all of my lash. And by one coat, I mean I'm not dipping back into the tube and adding more on top of this layer. See, one coat is still a lot. You know, I was thinking of going with a berry lip today, but now I'm thinking more of a nude lip might be better. Look at that pretty one coat. I'm gonna deal with my lashes and I'll be right back. Okay, I put on my lashes. They're like a demi-wispy with the volume turned up. They're kind of big, but I also kind of like that sometimes. Now for lips, I was gonna do Revlon Color Stay Suede ink in the shade Tunnel Vision, a nice berry, but then I thought, no, let's go more nude. So Lawless has come out with their Forget the Filler lipsticks, and I'm gonna use the shade Wedding Day. They have some really light nudes in this line, and this is a little bit on the deeper end of their light nudes. And I do feel a little, like when I put this on, a little tingliness after it's been on a bit, but it's not extreme. They're just a smooth, creamy lipstick, a little bit of thickness with them, luxurious packaging. We love a magnetic closure. And then I'm gonna pull in a liner. This is the shade Nude Honey, and I'm gonna maybe deepen my edges a bit. Just a little, you know? See what we're doing there? We don't want to completely lose the border of our lips just because we're doing a nude. And then I'm wanting to gloss that up a bit. I'm going to use my lifter gloss in Moon on top. See, now am I feeling just a little bit of a cooling tingle from that lipstick? Just slight. Now it's coming to life. Okay, then I think I'm going to do a couple of things. I want just a little more blush, and I'm going to go to this softer rosy side here. Just a little. Let it come up a little bit higher. And then I've been trying to make more use of my Hourglass powders and using them kind of interchangeably with Kosas Cloud Set. I've got diffused light here, and I'm just going to take a little bit of diffused light. I'm going to go right in this zone. Right in here. Use it like a little finishing powder. Evenness. There's our finished face, my loves. I really enjoyed experimenting with those deeper, cooler tones in the Love's Journey palette. I just love using Sydney Grace eyeshadows. It's such a joy. Couple of other great neutral rose there to play with, but gosh, that was so much fun. I really enjoyed that. These Lawless lipsticks are actually really nice. Like, I like the texture. I like how they're creamy, but they're not like slick. They're not slippery. They do have a nice cling to the lips, and if you are a fan of nudes to light nudes, there are some very light nudes in that range, but then also some deeper shades. It's kind of interesting how the look is coming away feeling so glam. I know the lashes are part of that, but our base product was a skin tint, and I do like this. I will continue to use it. I just think there are many things like this right now. It's for sure not your only option out there, but I did like that when they released it, they put out that powder as well, which was not an overwhelming powder foundation, but a nice partner to that type of product. Biggest miss for me right now, like I'm not gonna write it off completely because maybe, you know, as I pair it with other products, maybe I'll have some different experiences, but I'm not immediately loving the Makeup Forever concealer. color. If I can be slapping on Wet n Wild Incognito and be loving the experience, I can tell a difference here, and I'm not loving the way that built up on my eye. And the texture of the skin I was putting it on top of was not overly dry whatsoever. It just wasn't layering well. Thank you all so much for taking time to watch. Again, let me know in the comments section what kind of things you want to see these days, and I will be working on that. And yeah, have a great day. I love you. Bye.